Overwatch has a problem, but it's not what you might think. It's not a problem with the game design, or hero balance, or monetization. In fact, all those things are either in great or at the very least reasonable spots. No, the issue with Overwatch isn't even something that exists in the game, and that's because Overwatch's biggest problem is in the problems people think it has. Basically, its biggest issue is its perception. The wider online gaming community has an absolutely terrible perception of Overwatch. Now, yes, some of the complaints are valid. There's no PvE, the game went to 5v5, sure, that's fair. However, a lot of them range from bad faith arguments to straight up misinformation. And it's not hard to see why this perception might be so prevalent. There's more doomer, Overwatch is dead, Overwatch sucks, Blizzard devs are lazy and desperate content for this game than anything I've ever seen before. And today I'm here to tell you, they're all wrong. Some of the personal preference complaints are fine, but by and large, Overwatch is in an amazing state. The current balance is leading to hero diversity at a level I've personally never seen before. Unless you're playing in GM+, you can literally pick any hero you want and you'll have an equal chance of winning with them. The game is as smooth as ever. Every character feels fluid and fun, everything just works. You can get free battle passes and skins just by playing the game and saving the credits, and generally, it's just a much better way to experience the same game that everyone fell in love with all those years ago. And I know some people say 6v6 was better and stuff like that, but you know, the devs are testing ways to bring it back to this game, seeing if it really is popular enough to warrant it. Anyway, this video isn't to sit and debate every single popular talking point. It's not about rehashing the past, right? Today, I want to look ahead to the things that are exciting, the things that are worth appreciating, and the things that prove Overwatch has a very bright future. So, without further ado, here's everything amazing about Overwatch in Season 15. So starting off with probably the most game-changing aspect, we have perks being introduced. Now, this is super exciting, and while it remains to be seen just how much it's actually going to impact the day-to-day gameplay, it definitely has a lot of features going for it. And it's definitely not the first game to do it either. From MOBAs to even games that share the space of Overwatch like Paladins, perks have been around a long time in various forms, and now it's Overwatch's turn to, take a stab at it and see what they can come up with. This is really, really exciting because for one, it allows a lot more creativity from players and teams. You can choose whether you want to be aggressive or defensive, and you can really find an individual style that will allow you to kind of express yourself in the game, right? If you want to pick a perk that allows you to support your team better, you can do that. If you want to pick a perk that maybe gives you more solo carry potential, you can do that too. It allows you to have completely different experiences while still playing on the same hero. Not only that, we also see it's a way to bring back old abilities that a lot of people were attached to, right? For example, Reaper or Orisa, we see Soul Orbs are coming back, or the Shield is coming back. Again, when these were removed, they did kind of impact the playstyles that people may have gotten used to on these heroes, especially Orisa, right? Now that the Shield is coming back with the option of a perk, you can actually choose whether you want to be like that frontline brawler who's just getting in there with a javelin spin, or whether you want to help your team, put a shield on your DPS line, hold an angle with them, stuff like that, right? It allows you to go back to maybe the playstyle that you liked about a hero without completely getting rid of the new identity that maybe new players might like. More than anything though, it points to this new philosophy that the devs talked about after the spotlight, which is they're not trying to just chase perfect balance anymore. They've kind of realized that that might be a flawed approach to how they want to handle the updates for the game. And now they're going more into the philosophy which we've seen Marvel Rivals do recently, which is it doesn't matter so much if balance is perfect as long as the players are having fun. So they're no longer going to be wasting their efforts trying to chase an unattainable goal, and instead they're going to be refocusing all their ideas and stuff into really just making the game the most fun experience it can be. And when you have a game like Overwatch that's such a good base to build on, I'm really excited to see what that's going to look like. Now, the next thing that I think is super exciting is loot boxes. Overwatch is coming back with loot boxes, and they've found a way to make it work. They're no longer purchasable. You can now earn them both through the battle pass and through weekly challenges. And this is definitely great because it gives players a much more tangible reward to the progress they're making, right? Like when you complete the weekly challenges right now, you get the battle pass XP, whereas here with the loot boxes, now when you're playing the game, you actually have a much better chance of, well, maybe not a better chance because the loot boxes are going to be random, right? But you have a lot more potential to just be able to go and get a super cool skin simply from doing the weekly challenges, which, you know, if you didn't like the skins in a battle pass or something, you had no motivation to be on that grind. Now loot boxes, they'll give you that motivation because there's always a chance that you'll be able to get that one skin you've kept your eye on. And for the people that do opt to buy the battle pass, you'll be able to get even more loot boxes through that. So overall, I think it's a really good system. It's, I think, more than fair to the people who don't want to pay any money, and I think it's pretty generous to the people who are willing to like pay money to support the game. So I think that's really exciting to have them come back, and I hope it alleviates a lot of people's pains with the kind of current system. Now, also in Season 15, they're introducing their new set of weapon skins, and these are the Galactic weapon skins. I think these look super, super cool, and not only do they look cool, but they're a much better step in the direction of what I want cosmetics to look like, as opposed to like the Jade skins that we got. These Galactic weapons, they have a lot more effort put into them, you can tell. They have like that parallax effect that we've seen on some kind of space-themed skins before, but there was some trouble in like actually making that work for the weapons. Now they figured it out, and these are like super cool, super dynamic. Like, I know some people, they're not fans of like the purple or the dark color, and I mean, that's okay, right? You're not gonna make a weapon skin that every single person in the game is gonna love. But the fact that these are like a lot fancier, a lot more technically impressive than the Jade weapons were, it's definitely a step in the right direction, and I think that shows that they're listening to the feedback, right? They heard people say Jade weapons are a little bit so they were like, okay, we are gonna make something that is like really impressive, so here we go. And with those being released alongside the competitive rank reset, I think it's a really good time to, you know, jump into the game, start grinding. At some point in the mid-season, of course, we are gonna get a couple limited time things. First, in the hero Freja trial. Freja, I think, is a very interesting looking hero. I've seen some complaints about like the design being a little too similar to like Widowmaker, or more so the visual design rather than the gameplay design, right? But to me, the gameplay design is a lot more important than the visual design. Ultimately, I don't really care if her face looks a little bit too similar to Widowmaker, because when I'm in the middle of a game, it's not like I'm gonna be in the middle of a duel with Freja and be like, wait a second, am I fighting a Widowmaker or a Freja? Like, at a distance, that's not gonna happen either, right? Like, the only room for confusion might be in like some various artworks or stuff, but really not a huge deal. The important thing is the gameplay looks fun, it looks dynamic, there's no weird like cheese abilities or anything that I can see, you know, there's no like weird invincibility, anything like that. It's just some good, honest, straight arena shooter looking gameplay. You have the verticality, you have mobility. It doesn't look like there's any stupid one-shots. It just looks like a solid character. Like, maybe a little simple, yes, but you know, there's beauty and simplicity. Any potential issues that the hero might have can hopefully be ironed out with just number changes, right? So I think it's a really exciting addition to the DPS cast, and I'm super excited to see what's gonna come of it. And you know, having that trial period will make sure that hopefully any major issues can be kind of ironed out before we get to the actual release date. And the other limited time event is that 6v6 mini ranked season. This is probably one of the final tests, I would imagine, to really see, does 6v6 deserve to like be a permanent mode in the game again? Personally, I'm on the side that I don't care whether Overwatch is 5v5 or 6v6. The way you play in like organized play does vary a bit between 6v6 and 5v5, because of course there's like the whole main tank versus off tank roles that you have in 6v6, which the lines get blurred a little in 5v5. But at the end of the day, the heroes are the same. It's still a very fun experience either way. Of course, there's the potential that it ends up being a 50-50 split, and then we have both kind of pieces in the game here. I know the devs have said it's a possibility, right? They haven't written it off. So, you know, the devs, they're doing their best to like try and offer an experience that can really make everyone happy. I think that's really, really cool. And even if 6v6 doesn't end up being like super popular, like the last test only had 10% of player hours, right? It's still gonna be a fun little side mode that you can sink some time into. You can relive or reattempt some of like the comps of the old days. Like Double Shield will be back now that Orisa has her perk. You can try and run goats again, right? It's a fun option to have. It's definitely something that makes the season, you know, worth looking at and worth paying attention to. And of course, separate from like the actual 6v6 ranked, we will be getting Overwatch Classic back with the goats meta. Now, I know a lot of people are gonna say like, well, everyone hated goats, why they bring that back? A lot of people also enjoyed goats. The problem was it overstayed its welcome a little bit, and especially for DPS players, it did get a little old, right? For like people like myself, for example, who played Reinhardt in that goats comp, it was a beautiful mess. There were so many little micro plays that are indiscernible to like anyone who doesn't know the ins and outs of how the comp works. But like the slightest ability usage going off at the wrong time can actually like make and break fights. And there's so many like little things like that that make goats super fun to play for me. And I'm excited to have the chance to play it without actually being forced to play it. So it's really fun to have that back, and I'm really looking forward to that. Now, the final thing for Season 15 that I think is really exciting is the Le Seraphim collaboration is actually making a return. Now, I know you might be thinking, well, this is just a skin collab. What's so exciting about that? Well, what's exciting is that this was maybe one of the most popular collabs they did, and they absolutely blew the designs out of the park. I personally don't know anything about K-pop, but even I can like look at these and be like, whoa, these are super cool. And people wanted it back so badly that they did bring them back briefly. They made them available for purchase again at some point in the last year, which they haven't done for any other collaboration yet. And the fact that they're now bringing it back with an entirely new set of skins, that's, you know, really cool to see. So, well, the collaboration on itself is just like, oh yeah, more skins are coming, just cosmetics, who cares? It's the fact that they're actively showing that they're listening to what people want. And when the developers are doing that, when they're hearing the voices of the people, that's when the game can really have a chance to thrive. Now, in terms of like pure content, this season does seem to like be maybe a little lighter, just because perks are like the big thing, right? They're waiting to see how that's gonna work out, how people respond to it, what perks need to be tweaked, adjusted, whatever. But it's still a really, really exciting season. And like I said, so much of this stuff is stuff that, while on its own, might not mean much to some people, but it should, because it points to a really, really positive future. And we kind of see that even looking ahead to like Season 16, right? Now, I'll make Season 16 its own video closer to that time, but like we know there's a lot of wild stuff coming out there that'll definitely be worth paying attention to. So yeah, a lot of exciting changes, things that are gonna completely change the way we play the game, right? We're entering a new era of Overwatch here, and Season 15 is the start of that. And it's really cool because Overwatch is already in a great state, in my opinion. Like I already said, like at its core, this is the same game that won Game of the Year in 2016. And you gotta remember, Overwatch is like one of the only PvP games to ever do that. There have been other FPS games that do that, but they usually have like complicated stories and campaigns. Overwatch is just about good, solid PvP, and it still has that, right? And it's has that, but even better, because there's been so many little quality of life changes since then. Like there have been a couple things that were maybe regressions to an extent, like the level system and cards. I get missing those, right? But at the end of the day, that's like kind of fringe stuff. It's not stuff you're paying attention to when you're in game in the middle of a team fight. You're not thinking about the end card system. When you're in game in a fight, Overwatch is supreme. Like there's nothing that comes close to that feeling for me. Marvel Rivals is good. I enjoy it. I think it does a lot of cool stuff, but in terms of like the smoothness, the cohesiveness of everything, Overwatch just still holds that edge for me. And I'm not sure that it'll ever be dethroned when it comes to that aspect, especially when we see that the game is making so many commitments to continue to improve and get better over time. That's something that's really exciting. And I think it is something that gets forgotten a lot with such a focus on doomer content, because that's what gets clicks these days. But when you hear people throw out their doomer takes, you gotta ask yourself, like, are these actual quantifiable issues in the game, or is it just personal preference? Maybe you've grown tired of the game, you're a little burnt out, you've played the game for 7 years and now you want to move on. All that stuff is perfectly valid, but the game itself is the same solid game. And so I hope people don't forget that. Anyway, thank you all for sitting here and listening to me ramble. If you're a fan of Overwatch, I hope that you were able to come away from this with a good sense of positivity about what's in store for the future. And if you're someone who hates Overwatch and clicked on this video because you think I'm out of my mind, hopefully I was able to give you some points that you can, go and think on. Of course, everyone is entitled to their opinion or whatever, but, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Let's start a discussion. If you're new here and you want to stick around on the channel, I plan to make a lot of Overwatch and Overwatch esports focused content over the next season and hopefully long into the future, so feel free to stick around if that's something you'll enjoy. Now, I kind of struggled for a bit figuring out how I wanted to end this video, but I finally figured out a way. And I'm gonna end it with a quote that I've modified a little that actually comes directly from Overwatch. Never accept the game as it appears to be, but dare to see it for what it could be. So to me, that means the future's bright. Let's dare to see the possibilities that are ahead of us and do our best to enjoy it. Thanks for watching, and take care.